Good morning everyone. I am Mohammad Maaz Rihan, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. Today, in this session, we shall discuss one of the basic functions of management, one of the fundamentals of management, that is planning. In management, we have different functions such as planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. So planning is the primary function of management. So planning comes before all other functions of management. So why we need planning? Why we need planning? So planning, it gives stability, it sets objective, it sets certain end results, goals. Next, planning, it gives process purposeful, planning, it gives clarity. That is why we need planning. So if I want to take examples of planning, on 5th September 2016, Jio was launched in India. So it is almost 3 to 4 years as of now. So Jio has 38.75 subscribers so far. So it has competed with Airtel, it has competed with Vodafone, it has competed with Idea, it has competed with BSNL. So Jio has a highest subscriber compared to all other networks. So how this has happened? It has happened because Jio has planned well in advance. So basically, planning is what? Planning is a process of, planning is what? It is a process of thinking. Planning is what? Planning is a process of thinking, or planning is deciding well in advance what has to be done, when has to be done, where has to be done, who has to be done. So basically, planning is what? Planning is deciding well in advance. So that is what? Planning. So planning is a process of thinking about the various activities in order to achieve the end results. In order to achieve what? In order to achieve the objectives or targets or end results. That is why we required planning. So if I want to quote many examples, right? Say if a person, if he wants to travel from city A, say if I consider this as city A, he has to travel to city B. He has to travel to city B. So he has to plan well in advance in order to travel to city B. This is what his target. So what he has many options. Either he can go by train, or he can go by bus, or he can go by his own vehicle, or he can go by airways. There are plenty of options. So the target is what? The target is only one thing. So here, if a person wants to travel from city A to city B is the target. He has many options, he has many alternatives in order to achieve the end results. So either he can travel by his own vehicle, or by bus, or by train, or by railways, or by airways. He has plenty of options. Planning is basically, it has many options, and as a manager, he chooses the best results in order to achieve the end targets. That is what the planning is all about. So, and one more thing, if I want to quote still more examples, it is not only limited only for the organizations, only for the larger industries. It has an in-depth meaning, and it is applicable for everyone. Like it is applicable for even in a personal life. If you want to start a particular day, you have to plan for the day, which are all the activities you need to accomplish. So that is what the planning is all about, right? Say one more example if I want to take. So I have a company wants to manufacture 2 lakh mobile phones next year. So next year is what? It is planning is what? Planning is thinking. Planning is what? It is deciding. It is deciding well in advance. So a mobile company, they want to manufacture 2 lakh units for the next year. So it is what? It is forecasting, we are predicting about the future. Okay, so we have to plan for the various resources, such as we have to plan we have to plan for the material, we have to plan for the machineries, we have to plan for the labors, we have to plan for which are all the methods we need to proceed further. So planning, it is the basic fundamental approach for all other towards means to say that planning is what? Planning is the basic function of management compared to all other functions. Planning serves what? It serves the process purposeful. It gives the clarity. So then later we are going to organize the various resources that is required in order to achieve the end target, in order to achieve the objective. Okay, so what we will do, we will going to organize the various resources such as money, material, methods, 5 M's, machineries, money, methods, material and manpower. Okay, so we have to organize the various resources. After organizing the various resources, then staffing comes into picture, giving training, recruitment part, everything will comes under staffing. Okay, so after staffing, directing comes into picture. So you have to direct the employees. This is what the end result, this is what the objective we need to achieve. So after that, we need to control the entire process in order to achieve the end results. This is what the process of, this is what the functions of management. So basically planning is the basic functions compared to all other functions of management. If there is no planning, all other functions, it has no meaning. If we don't properly plan, if there is no planning, this organizing, staffing, directing and controlling is a wasteful exercise. So there is no meaning of organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. Say as I said one example, right? So mobile phones, I need to manufacture 2 lakh mobile phones. A mobile company wants to manufacture 2 lakh mobile phones. They have to plan each and every activities in order to achieve the end results. That is what the planning is all about. So there is well-known saying. So what is that saying? So if you failing to plan is planning to fail. It has in-depth meaning in it. So failing to plan is planning to fail. If you fail to plan, so you are planning to fail. That is what it has in-depth meaning in it. So we should have the end results, we should have the targets. So planning should be what? It should be flexible enough. Plans should be flexible enough. If I consider this COVID, if I consider this pandemic situation, we need to see, for example, so before it was a physical classroom, now it has transformed to online classroom. So we have planned well in advance for the next semester. This is how the planning comes into picture. So we are deciding what has to be done, when has to be done, who has to be done, where has to be done. So it is what? It is deciding well in advance in order to achieve the end results. Our end results is there should not be any disturbance for the classes. So before it was a physical classroom. Now what we are doing? We are converting. We are proceeding with the online part. This is how the planning comes into picture. So if I want to give, I can give plenty of examples. Planning is the basic fundamentals in everyone's life and in all the organizations that involves. So today we have different larger organizations. Say we have Apple, we have General Electric, we have Sony, we have Wipro, we have TCS, we have so many organizations. How they are sustained, like they are competing. They are competing in today's world. So how they are competing? Why? Because they have planned well in advance. They have planned, 10 to 20 years before they have planned. So basically, if you have a purpose in life, you have to plan in well in advance. Say if I want to take one more example, as a student point of view, if you are a student, you have plenty of opportunities. You have to plan for your career. So as a student, so as a mechanical engineer, he has to plan in which domain he has to go. He has plenty of options. He has various alternatives. Either he can go to manufacturing domain or thermal domain or design domain or IT sectors, whichever. He has to plan well in advance. Again, under design, we have different designing softwares. So he has to plan in such a way that the end targets he needs to achieve. This is how the planning goes into picture. This is how the planning comes into picture. So in the session we shall try to discuss what are all the nature, or we call it as characteristics, or we call it as features of planning. Next, what are all the why we need planning, what are all the importance of planning, we shall discuss in detail. Next, we shall discuss about the nature or feature or characteristics of planning. So I hope the definition of planning is clear enough. Planning is deciding well in advance what has to be done, when has to be done, where has to be done, and who has to be done. That is what planning is. Planning bridges the gap between where we are today, where we want to be in future. That is what the planning is. So moving on to the next topic, that is nature or feature or characteristics of planning. So planning is, first point is, planning is goal oriented. So if we have a set targets, then we can plan. But next, subsequent functions comes into picture, like organizing, staffing, directing and controlling comes into picture. So before that, it should be a goal oriented. We have to achieve the end results. That is what the planning is. What planning is? Goal oriented. Without targets, the other functions will not comes into picture. So it is a goal oriented. And one more thing is, a goal without plan is just a wish. That is what a planning is. What it is, a goal oriented. Next is, planning is a primary function. As I said, planning comes first before all other functions of management. So it is what? It is a primary function. Planning is what? Planning is primary function, or it is a fundamental of management, or a basic functions of management, or the foundation for the subsequent functions of management. So basically what? Primary planning is what? Planning is a primary function. Okay. So next is, planning is a thinking process. So planning is a thinking process. It involves an intellectual ability. A manager has to decide what are all the threats, what are all the opportunities that comes in the way of business. So he has to do SWOT analysis. So strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. He has to do SWOT analysis. Then he has to execute what exactly he has to do in order to achieve the end targets. So basically planning is what? Planning is a thinking process. It calls for the intellectual abilities of the manager in order to achieve the end targets effectively and efficiency. That is what planning is. What it is, a thinking process. Next is what? Planning is pervasive in nature. So what is the meaning of pervasive? Pervasive is nothing but planning that exists in all the departments. So if I want to take one example, if I want to take an example of an educational sectors, so planning is, it exists in all departments. Say for example, here we have different departments. So the levels I have drawn here. So here it is top level management. So top level management, middle level management and lower level management. So planning that exists in all the departments. If I take one example, as in case of educational sector, so there in the top level, all board of, like all trust members, principals, directors, everyone comes into picture at the top level. So if I consider the middle level managers, all the departmental heads that comes into picture, and in the lower level, all the faculties, teaching and non-teaching faculty comes here in the lower level management. So in every department, planning is going to happen. So basically here the instructions, it flows from top level to the bottom level, and the feedback, it flows from bottom level till top levels of management. So planning is what? Planning is pervasive in nature. It means to say that planning that exists in all the departments, right from top level to the lower level management. Right? If it happens in any of the organizations, if you consider any of the organization, planning is what? Planning is pervasive in nature. It exists in all the departments. That is what. Next, planning is what? Planning is a continuous process. Planning is a continuous process, and it is a never ending process. Planning was what? It is a continuous process and it is never ending process. So obviously if you consider any of the organization, managers, they have to plan frequently and they have to execute the planning process so frequently. So it is a never ending process, it is an ongoing activity. Planning cannot be stopped. So that is what? A continuous process. We need to adjust to the newest technologies. So we need to plan well in advance. We can't rely on the old technologies. We have to develop. We have to import new technologies in order to change the process. So that is what planning is. What planning is? A continuous process. It is an ongoing activity or it is a never ending activity. Next is planning is futuristic. So planning is futuristic. Managers, they consider, like they peep into futures, they'll analyze and they'll prepare well for whatever threats or whatever opportunities that comes along the way of the business. So planning is what? Planning is futuristic. So we consider based on the forecast and we will plan based on the forecast. That is what planning is. What? Futuristic. Next is planning is a choice. Planning, see, there are various alternatives. So planning involves choice. Why? Because say I took one example, right? So if a person, if he wants to travel from city A to city B, he has various alternatives, right? He has plenty of alternatives. So the end target is what? He has to travel to city B. So he has various alternatives. It involves, he will select, being a manager, he will select the best alternative based on the given alternatives. Okay, considering the various parameters, so he'll select the best one. So planning is what? Planning is a choice. Planning involves choice. Next is what? Planning is flexible. So plans which are made, it should be very flexible, it should be very dynamic in nature, it should not be rigid enough. So what planning is what? A planning is flexible, it should be very dynamic in nature, it should be not rigid. So as I said, like I took one example, like in this pandemic situation. So we had planned, right? We had planned for online classes and everything. So if the online classes, if it is not that advanced, then what we can plan it? We have to make sure that we will record such videos and will post it in the WhatsApp group and so on. So it is what? A planning should be flexible enough, it should not be rigid. Next, planning is what? Planning is rational. So managers who plans, they should not be emotional towards their approach. They should not be emotional towards their approach. So managers, they have to think efficiency as well as effectiveness towards achieving the end targets. That is what? Planning is rational. Next is what? Planning is an integrated process. So planning is what? It is an integrated process. So in an organization, everyone are aware of their organizational goals and objectives. So in every departments, they are aware of each and every goals in order to achieve the end target. Say if I just want to take one example, so in a garment factory we have different departments. In those departments they have set certain targets. Say in cutting section, in stitching section, in inspection section, in transportation, every other department. So the end target is they need to manufacture an end product. So it is what? It is an integrated process. So each of the department, they have their own set of plans. That is what? An integrated process. So I hope the concept is clear. So here if they ask like nature or feature or characteristics of planning, we need to write all these points. So first is what? Planning is what? It is a goal oriented. So there has to be end results, there should be an objective. That is what? Planning is what? It is a goal oriented. Planning is a primary functions. Planning comes first compared to all other functions of management. So this is a primary function. Okay, next is what? Planning, it involves thinking process, or it is an intellectual abilities. It calls for intellectual abilities of the manager in order to plan effectively and efficiency. And next is what? Planning is pervasive. Planning that exists in all the departments, right from the top level till the lower level, right from the CEO of the organization to the working class of the organization. That is what? Planning is what? Pervasive in nature. Next is what? Planning is a continuous process. It is a never ending activity. It is an ongoing activity. So planning is a continuous process. Next is what? Planning is futuristic. We have to peep into the future and we have to analyze and we have to prepare. So that is what planning is futuristic. Planning involves choice. We have various alternatives. So we are going to select the best alternative among the given alternatives. That is the very much role of a manager. He has to select the best alternative. If there is only one way of doing something, right, then there is not required. Then there is no need of planning. That is what planning is. What it is choice. Planning should be very flexible enough. It should not be rigid. It should be very dynamic in nature. So next is planning is rational. The manager should be he should not be an emotional towards planning. So he should plan in such a way that the organization will get an optimum results, considering optimum utilization of resources in order to achieve the end product effectively and efficiently. Next is what? Planning is what? It is an integrated process. So planning, it exists in all departments. So basically here integrated process means, so the lower level plans serves for the middle level, and again middle level plans, it serves for the upper level in order to achieve the end targets. So this is what the nature or feature or characteristics of planning. So far we have discussed about the planning, the nature or feature or characteristics of planning. So now we shall move on to the next topic, that is importance of planning. Why it is required, what is the purpose of planning, why we need planning. Okay. So here I have list some points. So why we required planning, right? So if I want to take examples and if I want to relate with this, you will understand better why we need planning. So obviously planning is what? Planning is deciding in advance what has to be done. Okay. So planning, so why we need planning? So first thing is, I'll take one example. So I'll relate all these points to that example. If I consider I just want to construct a house, so I'll relate that example with all these points. Constructing a house, that is the keyword. Now, if I want to construct a house, so I need to plan well in advance. So before constructing, I need to plan it. Okay, considering the how much dimension I have, considering the various government policies, each and everything, then I have to plan it. How many number of floors I need, how many number of bedrooms I need, what is the kitchen area I have to leave, what is the dimension of the hall I have to leave. Considering all this, a planning, it gives me a direction. It gives me the end results. It gives me the targets that I have to achieve. That is what planning, it gives what? It gives a proper direction. Next is what? Planning, it minimizes the risk as well as the uncertainties. So once I have properly planned, so it reduces the risk as well as the uncertainties. So I'll get to know, so which is the best thing I have to adopt in order to avoid the risk as well as the uncertainties that come along in the construction of house. Correct. So next is what? Planning ensures coordination. While constructing, we come across various departments. So various departments such as like painting department, like fabrication, we have like we have interior decorators, we have so many departments that comes while constructing a house, right? So that ensures coordination. So planning, it ensures coordination. I'll coordinate with the various engineers. I'll coordinate with the various engineers. So if I have a proper plan. Next is what? Planning, it leads to economy. So here in planning, which leads to economy. So basically what? I can avoid the wastage. And which in turn increases the efficiency, which in turn increases the productivity. So that leads to the economy part, right? So next is what? Planning, it facilitates decision making. So I'll have the various alternatives. While planning, I have various alternatives. I'll approach the various vendors. So which vendor gives me the least cost as well as the high quality, then I'll proceed with this. If I have a proper plan for whom to approach, then so basically what? Planning, it facilitates in decision making. So next is what planning, it reduces the wastage as well as overlapping of efforts. So planning is what it reduces wastage. So if I have planned properly, I can avoid what? I can avoid wastages as well as the duplication of work, right? So I can't assign the same job to two persons. So basically, if I have a proper plan, what I can reduce wastage as well as I can avoid, like I can avoid the duplication of work. So next is what? Planning, it encourages innovation and creative. Once I start constructing a house, I'll get to know, okay, this is the I becomes creative, like this is what we have to do for like interior decoration, like this is what the design of the doors, or this is what the design of the bedrooms, everything will comes into picture, right? So planning, it encourages what? It encourages the innovation as well as the creative part. Next is what? Planning facilitates control. So control is the key word here. So once we have planned properly, we need to execute it. So in an execution step, we need to control it. So control is what? Control is the key word. If we have planned properly, we need to control, and if we don't control, then there is no need of planning. So I hope all these points are clear enough. If I consider, I can give n number of examples. If I take one more examples, so considering this pandemic situation because of this COVID, if I take one more example, so a company, they need to manufacture the mask. So if they want to manufacture mask, they need to plan well in advance. So considering this situation, it might go for another 1 year or 6 months or 8 months. So considering this example, so we shall relate what is the importance or what is the purpose of planning, why it is required. So one company, they need to manufacture a mask. So considering this situation, they have planned now. So considering the future, right? So planning, it gives what? It gives a proper direction. Okay, so many number of masks they need to manufacture. So they can't manufacture in, say for example, if they have one thing in their mindset, they need to manufacture like 20,000 masks. So this 20,000 masks, it gets sold in the market for another 5 to 6 months. They can't manufacture 1 lakh mask. So it is what? It is wastage. So if we have planned well in advance, it gives us a proper direction, right? So what? Planning, it gives it direction. So next is what? Planning, it minimizes the risk as well as the uncertainties. If I want to speak about the risk and uncertainties, so the material, what they are using it. So the material they are using, it should be, whether it is a N95 mask or whether it is whether the material what they are using is very good or not. So why? Because if there is no proper material, or if there is no if we don't concentrate on that particular part, right? So once we plan it, okay, so we'll plan for the various resources, various resources such as material, men, machineries, methods, money, everything will comes into picture. So if we have a proper plan, we minimizes the risk as well as the uncertainties that come along while manufacturing a mask, right? So next is what? Planning ensures coordination. So again, we have the various departments. So we have a cutting section, we have a stitching department, we have the inspection department, we have the transportation departments, we have various departments that comes along, right? So there should be a proper coordination among the various departments. If there is no coordination among the departments, then we can't able to achieve the end results, we can't able to achieve the end products, right? So that is what, so planning, it ensures coordination. Next is what? Planning, it leads to economy. So once you manufacture so many number of masks, right? So once you sell those masks, right, you will generate some amount, right? So that is what it leads to economy. So if you have properly planned, you can avoid the wastages. You can avoid the wastages, that in turn increases the productivity as well as it increases the efficiency also. So next is what? Planning facilitates decision making. So obviously once we plan it, right, we have various alternatives that comes along this. Which is the material we need to choose? Whether if I choose a cotton material, what will be the benefit? Whether they like it in the market or not. That comes while planning, right? So you are the decision maker. So why? Because decision making plays a major role. So in deciding, so whether decision making, it can make the organization or it can break the organization. So decision making plays a vital role in every organization. So if we have properly planned, so we can decide what exactly has to be done. So next is what? Planning. It reduces wastage as well as the overlapping of efforts, the duplication of efforts, like, so we as well as the wastage. If we have properly planned, we can avoid wastage. Okay, each department, they have to plan, right? In every department we have planning. So each department, they have to plan, and they have to avoid what? They have to reduce wastage. They should not put the mask in the scrap, or they should not, see, cutting section, they have to properly cut, and they have to avoid the duplication of work as well. Okay, so it reduces what? It reduces wastage as well as the overlapping of efforts. Next is what? It encourages the innovation as well as the creative. Once you manufacture a mask, right? So once it is in the market, like, you will get to know, okay, the people, they are which type of mask they are liking, whether it is a filtered mask or whether it is a cotton mask, whether, so considering the various innovation parameters that comes along, right? The strap which you are using in the mask, that comes, right? So that is what it encourages innovation as well as the creative part, right? So obviously the last step is what? Planning. It facilitates control. So control is a key word. So we need to control. So once we have planned, we need to control all the activities, right from raw material till the transportation, till the finished product, and again till it goes to the customer. So we need to control each and every aspects in the planning. So if we don't properly control, then there is no need of planning, right? So that is what. So the importance as well as purpose of planning, I hope the concept is very much clear enough. We took two examples. One is construction of house, one more is a company wants to manufacture what? Wants to manufacture a face mask. So relating these two examples, if you just write all the key points, right? So key points are what? Direction. What? It provides direction, it minimizes risk and uncertainties, it ensures coordination among the various departments, it leads to economy, planning facilitates decision making, planning reduces wastage as well as the overlapping of efforts. Next is what? Planning. It encourages innovation as well as the creativity. Next, planning facilitates control. So far we have discussed the various concepts, like we have discussed about planning, we have discussed about the nature or feature or characteristics of planning, and the importance and purpose of planning. I hope the concept is clear enough.